and governance strategy. So just in a bit. So this is our Notion and our governance strategy document. So let's move on. That's a nice answer, Pringles starter. Actually, we're going to start with the guest. Yes. And Cloaky says, I've always been strict about happiness in the Spanish version. Yeah, we also have like kind of like updating what's going on our weekly calls, since in Spanish it's just monthly, it's not every week. So you're welcome to come. Our next one is gonna happen actually this month in August. And we do it in order to kind of like make an upgrade for all the previous calls, and you know that there's always some changes that we need to update constantly to also the Spanish community. So thank you for asking, by the way. And yeah, so we're going to start with our guest, but before that, if you are an card holder, you can delegate it to Paul, to Cloaky, to Blue, to Penguin Soldier, or to Jack. Thank you so much. So, as I said, we're going to start with our guest, which is Chris Bradley, the CEO at Summer Finance. And well, he's going to share insights about the implications of rebranding, lessons learned from Oasis, and more. So please, if you have any questions about these topics, feel free to bring them to the meeting about the front end as well. So you can start writing the questions. Um, we are gonna talk about the launch project, and of course the modifications, rules modifications on the accessibility scope with the significantly increased budget for the launch project. As well, we're gonna have, well, actually, we're being cautious about suggesting specific proposals for this particular scope. You know, it's a bit tricky because much of it is already defined, and we don't want to propose things just for the sake of it. So if you know, in the previous quarter, we already presented concrete proposals regarding the council. Today we're going to kind of like share Clocky's proposal and on the different scopes and the modifications. By the way, he also added different parts from different AVCs. So we're going to see that in just a minute. So we are going to start with our guest. And we have a couple of questions. First of all, we're really excited about Chris coming up in here, since they already have they're commenting also on the chat. I get kind of like distracted, so I'm gonna focus on this slide. By the way, you can keep commenting. I'm reading in a while. And so let's start with this. We have a couple of questions regarding the rebranding, but if it will also, if you could add comments in the chat. And so I already see that Chris is here. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for your time. So we have here just to kind of like get to know more about what's going through, you know, a transition from a brand that has already it's big in the market, and something similar is happening already in Maker. So that's why we want to know like your insights. First of all, the reason why you decided to kind of like make this transition. So first of all, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Chris, CEO of Summerfy, formerly Oasis.app. My Maker connections go back a long way. I was one of the first product managers in Maker. I joined kind of halfway through 2018, and was ultimately responsible for most of the UIs that Maker had. Then from a product point of view, certainly the first governance UI and so on. And then obviously when multi-collateral DAI launched, we created Oasis.app keeping the Oasis brand that came with Oasis DEX that had historically been around Maker since obviously the very early days. It was like the first decentralized DEX or first DEX on Ethereum. So the Oasis brand had a lot of trust and stuff back then. And then so when we launched multi-collateral DAI within the foundation and the community, we kept that Oasis brand to kind of keep the traditions of like kind of one-to-one with Maker. But yeah, I was the product lead for Oasis app all the way through the foundation days until the foundation really dissolved in 2021, and we took Oasis.app out of the foundation into a separate company, mainly because it wasn't really suitable to be handed over as a community project because of all of the kind of like centralized resources it had. It was a fairly centralized app, and yeah, so I've got very much a product background, and I kind of keep that with me throughout the kind of Oasis app days since 2021 and now in the SummerFi days as well.
Yeah, that's what you mentioned. So the transition to independent entity. So in June 2021, as the Maker Foundation disbanded, Oasis became an independent entity. So this was probably a good factor for you all to make this rebranding happen. And so you will let me know about that. But how do you approach rebranding a brand that holds a significant presence in the market? And if you could give us the insights, since it's already happening something similar to here in Maker.
Yeah, so as they touched on, like the Oasis brand had like a huge history with Maker, and that was actually one of the drivers as well in a way. So there was a couple of points, and it definitely wasn't an easy decision for the team to make to rebrand, but it very much kind of was a team consensus decision really. On there, it was kind of a discussion topic for a little while, kind of without consensus as when the right time would be. But as we kind of moved on, obviously it became kind of more apparent, I think, that the time was right. Like a month or so ago when we did actually do the rebrand. Obviously we decided on it several months beforehand that it was time to rebrand. And there was a couple of things there that really kind of went into that decision stuff really. One, there was that obviously we were very closely tied with Maker, and as Summer or as Oasis back then, kind of moving into Summer, but as a product, we were trying to move ourselves away from just being a Maker front end to being what we hope to be effectively the most trusted entry point to DeFi. So if you want to do anything with your on-chain assets, like we want like kind of our app, whether that's Oasis or Summer, whatever you want to call it, basically like be the place to do whatever you need to do in DeFi with those on-chain assets. But with that connection to Maker, everyone's still associated us very, very, very closely with Maker. And Maker's going through its own transitions at the moment, not just in the rebranding, but the whole end game, particularly like if we look back a few months now as well. And we were referred to as Maker a lot. People still thought we were part of the Maker team or just a core unit, and so on. And we really wanted to kind of split from that. And with Maker changing course, it felt like a very good time. The other thing is Oasis as a name within crypto, like seems to be spinning up on new projects constantly. Obviously, there's Oasis Labs with Oasis Network, like the Rose token and like Oasis Protocol. And I think the more and more events we went to in the last year or so, we just kept getting asked, "Oh, which Oasis are you?" And there was like new Oasis like projects spinning up almost left, right, and center. Like obviously the Oasis name seems to work really well in crypto, but it meant that it was getting harder and harder and harder to distinguish ourselves around exactly like kind of what Oasis like we were really and what we stood for. And in the end, we just got referred to as like the Maker Oasis. So yeah, kind of put all those things together. We were splitting out, like we were kind of pushing forward to do more, have many more protocols on the front end of the UI to be that kind of just the place you come if you want to do something with your on-chain assets in DeFi, plus the changes in Maker, plus yeah, just getting mixed up with other projects.
That's a good like kind of like a throwback, right? So can you tell us what guidelines should one consider for a task of this magnitude? Like, is there like a risk that after rebranding an established brand, the new brand might not achieve the same level of recognition as the previous one? This is also kind of like very new for you guys, but how are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so I think you need to go back to like kind of your core values and stuff, right? Like what is it that makes your current brand the brand it is today? Like what does it stand for? What does the experience stand for? What does the tone and the messaging kind of stand for? Because none of that necessarily needs to change. Um, right? Like what like you as a product and like stand for, like those core values that you want to live by as a kind of external facing product. They won't change with the brand, right? The brand is really just a name on the door that's there. So I think firstly, it's making sure you have alignment and kind of clarity over exactly what the brand that like currently stands for, and if you're rebranding and changing the name or whatever, or like if you're changing color schemes and so on, like you still want to reflect those same values, right? So the new name needs to reflect the same values if you want to kind of keep that continuity, unless you're trying to break away entirely. And so on, right? So one key thing for us is like we didn't actually change a huge amount of our actual product. So we wanted a new name and a kind of new brand, and it really was just a brand name renaming rather than an entirely new brand. We didn't really change the colors except for kind of going to a slightly more kind of summery, kind of themed color palette, really, and going kind of more circles than we had before, just kind of replicating the sun or so on, or the change in seasons, really. Um, but really, it comes down to values. So, what is if you're like if your new brand doesn't exert the same values as your old brand, it's going to be very hard to maintain that continuity, and so on. And there's so many kind of hidden values within a name that just immediately will come to mind. Right, as soon as you say a name out loud, like there'll be connotations associated with that, whether it's kind of like happy or sad, or like kind of trusted or not trusted, or like kind of fun or serious, and you need to kind of find out where you want to be on those different scales, right? And kind of like measuring yourself along like certain things. Like if you kind of named it something similar to like kind of a Goldman Sachs, for instance, right? It's going to have a very different connotation to like some of the like brand names you get in DeFi, which are kind of like fun and give it a go and new and modern. So I think yeah, the values is the main driver. And then again, it's about whether within that rebrand you want to change everything or just trying to change the name and change other bits kind of gradually. Like, do you really want to get rid of everything that's associated with the current brand? Like, literally start from a clean sheet of paper. So when someone comes to your site or product, there is absolutely nothing that they see as similar. Or do you want to like just or do it kind of gradually? So it's like change the name, maybe change the color palette a little bit, but maintain that name connected to the values. But it still feels and works exactly as they expected it to work before. So almost you would just have a like kind of as we've got in many of our things, it's just Summerfy, formerly Oasis.app. And as a user, it pretty much looks and feels the same, except for the name on the very top of the page. But none of the rest of the products actually change. So that kind of continuity and product experience that actually sits behind the brand name and so on, what really makes the product is no different. Everything still functions exactly the same. It's just a new name. The same way as kind of some of the neobanks and stuff when they rebrand and so on. Like I don't know how many people here use TransferWise at all, but for instance, like they dropped just the transfer from their name, right? They're just called Wise, and it's got formerly TransferWise, like on all of their materials for good like 9 months. But yeah.
Yeah, actually, you were mentioning something that I was coming to the next question. It was where is Summer headed in comparisons to Oasis? But you just said it that it's pretty much like the same, right?
Yeah, I mean, as a product, nothing changes between our kind of vision, mission, or whatever. Again, our core values, nothing has changed there. It is just effectively that new name on the door with a kind of fresh look of like paint in a similar sort of color scheme, really. But as a product, I think we are like the feedback from users is like we're doing everything like kind of right. We just need to keep pushing forward on kind of innovation and so on, really. But as a user, when you come to the products, once you've kind of looked past the logo in the top left, nothing is any different. So the same product that was extremely well trusted before, and that trust ultimately came from the maker connections back in the day, is exactly the same. So you aren't hit with a completely different experience just because we've changed the name. And I think if you want to maintain, if you've got values to maintain, that's really important.
Thank you for your answer. Here are some questions regarding a comment first, and then a question from Penguin Soldier. He says, "Great sharing on the rebranded story, Chris. I think it's very up to the accessibility scope discussion for today, as Maker is looking to rebrand with the end game, with launching of new stable and new Gov tokens. Do you have any comments on the approach as DAI and MKR are staying? This could end up having the same effect as these tokens be called Maker new stable or Maker new Gov token, which might nullify the rebranding effect." Any comments on this?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't stayed too up to date with the Maker stuff since the endgame stuff came in, so I don't know the full details. I actually is the name actually like new stable and new Gov token, or is that just like
Yes,
a placeholder?
I mean they're not the names, but it's how they are known until today, until now.
Okay,
Maybe it's been said that
okay,
it's going to change. Yeah. But so far everybody knows them, and he like mentionings and called them like that.
okay. Yeah, I mean, personally, I think like I don't know why necessarily Maker needs to rebrand DAI in particular, and even the MKR token. Like there is like for me, like they are incredible powerful brands that have like I'm not quite sure of the kind of like negative reasons for staying with the current brands, other than maybe trying to just disconnect with some history. But yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, my personal feeling is like there's a lot of things Naked could be doing, and I think the rebranding is potentially just a way to kind of like it may be a shortcut to thinking it will hopefully fix some things, whether that's price or what. But it feels like of all the things going on, like rebranding was, in my opinion, is probably kind of bottom of the list of all the other things going on. And as I touched on before, like trying to keep that same experience and so on, and be the same thing. There's such huge changes going on in Maker. I think the concept of like rebranding then the tokens that everybody knows and trusts is going to be probably pretty difficult. And I'm not entirely sure why it needs to happen. Even if you're redeploying the token, I mean, we had DAI in the single collateral DAI days. Like I know it's now referred to as Psi, and it's called Psi everywhere, but it was DAI, right, in the single collateral days as well. And when we brought out multi collateral DAI, we wanted to keep that same name. So like it was the old token that was rebranded. So if it's new functionality with a token, like I've seen kind of pushed around, like it's got some extra stuff connected to it, I don't know why you wouldn't do something similar again, and just maybe like have the DAI token called something else, even just called like old DAI or Psi2 or something, and then like have the current one, like the new deploy token as DAI. I mean it's not something that I would have kind of pushed or voted for personally. Like I said, we were very strong on the summer side that the product itself and nothing about the experience of using it. And as someone else said as well, there was no smart contract changes or anything that came along with the rebranding of summer. Like literally nothing else changed. Like the rebranding was like a feature branch that literally just changed the name and some colors and some links. Functionality wise, there was other people working on exactly the same functionality that's still there today. It's there to bad. I don't want to waste money. I mean, I just like it's not something I would do personally. But yeah, not while everything else is going on right now. And I don't think like the Maker or DAI brand is like a dumpster fire or anything either. Like I've never seen any complaints about the brand. Put it that way.
Yeah, I think what you said, DAI has a lot of history, and also Penguin Soldier comments. I agree with you, Chris. I too am scratching my head to understand the rationale to rebrand the existing tokens that are well trusted. And well, yes, well, DAI and MKR, it's going to be now a new stable, new Gov token. Although if you hold DAI or new Gov token, I mean DAI or MKR, I mean, those tokens are going to still exist, but yes, they're going to be these two brand new tokens. Actually, there are a lot of comments in the chat and questions. um Jack says, just say it's a bad idea and a waste of money. But Wizard says, I think Maker just want to connect with the new brand with the endgame update. Probably, yes. Blue says, allocator issuance replaces retail issuance. Associate risks with the new stable changes fundamentally. New benefits also applies. From our view, it makes totally sense. Oh, nice. There is a question here as well. Let me find it. Oh, well, it's not a question. It's more like Penguin Soldier says, if I'm not wrong, there are no smart contract changes that came along with the rebranding of Summerfy as well. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I touched on it just before as well. There was nothing changing the smart contracts at all. I said hardly any of the code changed apart from links updating to Summerfy and new logo in the top left. Really, and the slight color palette. I mean, as well, just to talk to Blue's comments around the kind of like associated risks with a stablecoin changes fundamentally. Like I think like actually PB just said kind of what I was going to say. It's like I think an interesting point of view, but it's still going to filter down. Like it's still going to come through the sort of sub DAOs to the kind of the retail users. It's still going to be like have this like retail issuance at some point, and it's still basically going to be operate in the same way. Really, it's still a like a crypto, like a collateral backed stable coin, right? That like it's so hard to build trust in a token, especially now that there are so many and been so many failures as well. Like even like you're not starting from scratch, but by changing the rebrand, you're effectively telling everybody it's starting from scratch, and trying to build up that trust again is going to be pretty hard. Like I think I was having a conversation with some people the other day that if you were to relaunch Maker as it is right now, like would it get to like the $4 or $5 billion like circulation as it is right now? And it was kind of like probably not with all of the competition so around it. It would be hard to understand like why, but that trust has kind of kept it at like yeah, like so even to the comment about 9% of new users aren't even in crypto and not know about MKR or DAI. But the people that do discover it are going to get told about it over and over and over and over again and be able to find that history, I think. Anyway. But yeah.
As I put it here, I agree on that. It's really hard to trust new tokens. Turname says rebrand makes sense for Maker looking to scale the stablecoin to a mass audience. 90% of new users are not even in crypto now and will not miss or know about MKR. Oh, that's also true. Yes, I agree on that too. But Publica says Summerfy includes a few Aave B2 pools. Are you planning on offering Spark pools as well?
Yeah, I think down the road, certainly. We were just waiting for Spark to get a little bit of traction. And we're already having the discussion internally and with the team as well about supporting that eventually. And I think to true name, I think the only question I would have on that, like you said, it makes total sense, and 90% of users like won't miss it and know about it. But just to that point specifically, I think like from a product point of view, what's the value add in changing the name? So like, how is changing the name going to basically scale the stablecoin to a mass audience? Like that's the only challenge. So like, you want to spend time, effort, and money doing something. You want to see a return, and how it's going to help do something. And I don't know why like how rebranding helps it scale. Like that's the bit I think I'm missing. like you do something because it has the return on investment, right? Like you want to spend time and money on it, but I don't see like how rebranding helps it. Like it might scale, like you might scale and you might look back and say, it's because of the rebrand. But I think it's that question around like it, how do you know it couldn't be 2x what it got to if you didn't rebrand, and so on. So it's an impossible thing to ever measure as well. Like you can't ever measure a rebrand. That's ultimately, but yeah.
That was a good question. What's the value added, right? I think that if we only knew also what what's going through every project that decided to make these kind of decisions, but it says, well, let me read the next comments. Jack says there's a secret committee spending money on the new name. Maybe they can tell us how their efforts will help scale. Oh, can you tell us more about that? Well, then True Name says there's a vision of our end game that many do not see. The new brand deals with brand confusion and illegibly for what is maker versus DAO that Rune has articulated very well in podcasts. Well, yes, he has explained it, what he like, the reason why he's also making this rebrand, and the reason why there are these two new tokens, and with the allocator and subDAOs, what's his plan. Well, for him, how Maker has been so far, it's not like the best. So he's planning, he has this plan in order to improve all these kind of like things that were not working well. Well, let me read some comments. Okay, Pink says, wouldn't it be more confusing then in terms of bringing in new users, more tokens to understand while getting into crypto? Yeah, that's also what you all point out there about the comment from True Name, Chris, was also kind of like interesting to know your point of view on that. Well, I have another question that it's regarding. I'm going to keep reading the comments as well. So about the ACNA project, I'm not even know if I'm pronouncing it that well. ACNA, the protocol. So
Archna?
ACNA, there you go.
Yeah.
How do you go about selecting projects to support, and like if you like to share some details about ACNA?
Yeah, so I mean, we've only got a couple of protocols on there, but I mean, the Arsenal project was like mainly created by a number of ex-Maker people as well, who we all knew very, very well. So for us, like one of the biggest things for us, and again the kind of values and the brand that we have, whether if it was Oasis when we first started the work, or Summer now, is how do we like at all times maintain that kind of trust from our users. So this was obviously the very first time we'd onboarded a brand new protocol from the start, since Maker, really. And like we have this trust, and we have a lot of user research that kind of shows that a lot of people that use Summer that we've spoken to in like user interview sessions and so on, kind of told us when we were making this decision that anything that kind of Oasis at the time supports, like if Oasis trust it, then I can trust it. And that was super important for us then to understand exactly like the protocols that we support. We must be able to trust ourselves. So with Archna, it came from a team of developers and other people, like product people and business people that we absolutely trusted from our time back in the Maker days, and so on, right? So we knew the team very well. We knew kind of their approach to things. We knew the risks they would and wouldn't be willing to take. And we got to like kind of got to see the code and review the code and look over the code. And we reached out to a number of kind of like well-known kind of DeFi users as well, and spoke to those, kind of ran the concept past them and so on. But crucially, it fitted into the vision of what like we have as a product on Summerfy today, for example. So the primary product of Summer is obviously you can borrow, you can multiply, and you can earn. And Ajna fitted into that model absolutely perfectly. The same way like Maker obviously kind of created that model for us. Aave fits into it very well. There's a number of other protocols as well that we're looking at. But crucially, what we're doing is we're looking for protocols that one we can trust and will help our users ultimately kind of get the job done for our users really. So we use the jobs to be done framework within like internally to the project when working on features and the product backlog and so on. And that is the Ajna protocol like helped us like be the tool to help us get the job done for those users really. So the fact that you can lend to protocols, lend to pools, like the isolated pools, and so on. You can borrow from them. That fitted perfectly into our kind of our multiply products. You can earn through lending on there. So it fitted into our kind of UI one-to-one. And beyond that, I think it's just a hugely innovative like protocol as well. Like when we first saw it, that the Oracle-less, completely permissionless nature with no governance, like attached to the actual protocol, only the grants funding afterwards, is pretty amazing. And I think in some ways, kind of all kind of goes in some ways to some of the things that Maker was maybe wanted to try and do in the early days. I think if you look at like Rye, for instance, like that was like kind of the next step of Maker in a way with the kind of like TRFM kind of mechanism for like maintaining a stable thing. Like this is all just driven by code and no governance. So the pool, the rates and so on, they're continuously changing and fluctuating depending on supply and demand, and so on. See, there's any thoughts on? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I obviously some conversations going on about the rebranding still above, but yeah. It says any thoughts on adding LSTs or restaking ETH tokens as collateral? So there's a number of LSTs already as collateral through Ajna. So there's a lot of kind of like ETH, like CB ETH, RETH, and so on there. But I mean, the great thing with Ajna is anyone can create a pool with any tokens, and the hopefully kind of really awesome feature that we're working on right now is something called Oracle-less mode, which you'll be able to come to Summerfy, and if the pool exists on Ajna, you'll just be able to like type in the token addresses or type in the pool addresses, however which way you want to do it, or the token names if it's part of like the token list, like one of the major token lists, and it will find you all of the relevant pools, and you'll just be able to use all of the functionality like borrow, multiply, and earn for any of the long tail assets you have there. So we tried a proof of concept in a way the other day or last week when we added like WorldCoin USDC and USDC WorldCoin. So effectively a long and a short pool to show that like you can basically support any token almost from launch on it basically. And yeah, but I mean even some like kind of the restaking ETH tokens and so on, like. And anything can basically be collateral in there. Just like Maker, Aave, and so on. Like you can't really have the rebasing tokens very easily, so there would have to be wrapped versions on there. So obviously it's wrapped stake ETH, not stake ETH, and so on. But the likes of like Coinbase ETH and Rocket ETH is all work really well along with some other ones as well.
I have another question about what you were saying, but there is Cloaky is asking, will Summer Finance be offering any guidance to the accessibility facilitators regarding the front-end standards of subDAOs?
We haven't got any plans to at the moment. I think we're still waiting to see how that sort of stuff works. Like we heard Rune talking about it, I think in the very, very, very early days of Endgame when Endgame was first announced. There was some ideas there and mentions of like how Oasis could be used as like a template or something. All of the code is open source, so that could definitely like kind of definitely work. But yeah, we haven't got any like anything kind of in the pipeline to say yes or no to doing that really.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer. Penguin Soldier asks, Hi Chris, will Summerfy ever introduce a form of testnet simulation similar to that available on Spark Protocol or DeFi Saver?
It's been a discussion point for I think almost like 12 months or so, and around that kind of simulation thing and the value of that simulation thing. It's ultimately it's often come down to how many users would actually benefit or use the simulation stuff basically that's in there, so you can go and simulate it. So there were test nets available. Like we had test nets available ever since 2019. Like you could just use Girly or whatever to test it. But the actual simulation feature, similar to like DeFi Saver, for instance, like it's kind of always been a question, and goes back to that kind of return on investment idea, really, around whether like that the simulation thing you can run where you start a fork and run it basically to a test net, in a sense, with like kind of pretend money. Like how valuable that is to like say 95% of the users that are using the product, or can we better build just a simulation kind of in using data to help the users kind of say like this is roughly where you'll earn. We're kind of working on a new onboarding at the moment, which kind of helps give that kind of more traditional simulation way, but kind of using back data. So to say that like you've got a liquidation price which is like 22% below like the current price, for instance, the last time the price, or in the last 3 years, the price has fallen 22% within like say 24 hours on 2 occasions on these 2 dates. So we're trying to look at actually like what is the best way to add value to the users in kind of providing that data, compared with just offering a fairly complex and like DeFi power user simulation, really, that uses it, but trying to like simulate how much you will earn over a period of time. What is the worst case scenario based on the data that's happened in the last few years, and so on.
Well, thank you. There is another comment, and I was also kind of like asking you about both Acna and Summerfy. Well, they have this user friendly interface. So, what can you tell us kind of like what it takes to build this kind of user friendly interface in order for take into account, and also I think for the end game, it's also kind of like be more user friendly. So any tips that you can share with us?
I mean, there's just always one golden rule, right, when building user interfaces, and that's speak to your users. So identify who your users are, kind of step one. So who is the user? And sometimes you have a user and a customer, right? So a customer is the ones that are often paying you the money, and then a user could be someone else that's maybe using your service, probably for free, right? But generating you money elsewhere, for instance. But you speak to your users and listen to your users. Like the old adage of like build it and they will come is like not true in like 99.99% of cases. Like you have to solve real problems that your users have. And you kind of like, the one thing I say to our team a lot is that you just have to like feel like their life is improved by using your product or your app. So if they don't feel like they're like if they don't feel the need to come back and use you, like your product is never going to grow, and you're never going to get that kind of word of mouth referrals. So if you listen to your users and build what they want, 9 times out of 10 they will be the ones that do the most of your marketing, right? And tell you and tell their friends and others, like the classic kind of like Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, like tell their friends and family about your product and what it does. And I think that was the thing that attracted me to DAI in the early days, right, where DAI genuinely solved a problem, the whole like banking the unbanked and so on, like solved problems for real people, like all over the kind of all over the world, really. And the Maker protocol being able to like generate liquidity from the assets you hold that you don't want to get rid of, in such an easy way. Again, it was like people came back to that, particularly in the side days, in the early days of ETH and stuff, right? Like people came back to the Maker protocol so much, and we saw then in DeFi Summer where you could then use the Maker protocol to make money elsewhere and so on, through yield farming or whatever. Like was real use cases, but it all ultimately comes like from speaking to your users. If you want to know who your users are and understand what their real like kind of core problems are.
Yeah, I think I'm going to stay with that. What you said, listen to your users and speak to your users. Totally, 100% agree. I'm reading the comments. Friendly reminder. Well, we love having debates in our meetings. Just maintain respect in your arguments. Then another question says, well, a comment from Penguin Soldier. Jesus makes a lot of sense. Chris, for the value, add to 95% of the users of Summerfy. I think that's it. I don't know, Chris, if there is anything else that you would like to add, your final words.
No, just thank you very much. It's been really awesome and I'm really liking the debate that started, even though I can't quite keep up with it on the side a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna keep watching with really keen eyes on everything that's happening.
Yeah, it's always welcome debate, as we mentioned. So, thank you so much for your time. It was longer than we expected, but thank you so much. It was really good to know your insights with this rebranding and all the topics that you mentioned. We're going to, by the way, this is recording, so everyone could also rewatch this. And again, thank you, Chris, for your time. We're going to move on.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on to our next part, which is we're going to talk about the launch project and also the modifications made by Rune. So we have here, and here I would like to share the definition. If you saw today earlier ecosystem post related to the launch project updates. So I'm just going to start by reading his definition, and then we'll keep going with the what is on the scope. So it says that the launch project is a coordination and bootstrapping effort under the accessibility scope that will support the successful deployment of the early endgame launch phases until the end of 2024. I'm going to keep going with this and the two updates, but I just wanted to kind of like paraphrase how ecosystem defines the launch project. Basically, it's a temporary initiative led by the accessibility facilitators to support, as ecosystem mentioned, to support early launch phases for 1.5 years until the end of 2024. So it coordinates brand development, what we were just talking, marketing, and it integrates smart contract development. Well, the project also focuses on AI and governance tech, partnerships, and non-crypto advisory council members. And something that it's regarding as well the modification. It's an exception to transparency rules due to the new brand's impact. So also post beta launch, it emphasizes transparency, marketing, and growth. Well, let's move on to the next part. So the key focus areas. So when it comes to coordination, it oversees the development of the new brand, the new website, marketing, and also communication strategies. So I think that since it's very related to our just what Chris was mentioning earlier, so well, as well as seamlessly integrating smart contract development into the launch process. And then when it comes to the AI and governance technology, it develops essential AI and governance AI and governance technology, fostering partnerships with high value companies to reinforce MakerDAO's utilization of AI and governance tools. And when it comes to advisory council, the project aims to attract high value advisory council members from non-traditional crypto background. And when it comes to the focus at the post beta launch, so something that is mentioned in the scope is that the launch project is a one-time exception to maximum transparency requirements, and this is due to the significance of the new brand launch in impact and the need for a positive initial impression. So it's allowed to focus on a strong debut, including integrating, of course, non-crypto partners without immediate exposure to unique DAO governance complexities. And so after the beta launch, the launch project shifts to focus to higher transparency standards. And well, this involves coordinating marketing and launch processes for subsequent phases. So preparing the community for increased governance participation and driving growth across the system. And now we're going to focus on the modifications made by Rune. So in this amendment proposal that I'm sharing with you, this was, of course, regarding the budget for the launch project. I'm going to send the link here. I'm gonna read the comments in a minute. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that the 20 plus 20 million non-transparency budget. Opinions on this? Yes, please. When Publica says yes, rebranding can be quite expensive depending on the scope of the rebrand. Mm-hmm. Okay, so share with you this. Okay, so I shared the link, which is from the modifications made by Rune that okay, this one. Okay, so yes, as I'm reading in the comments, well, the modifications involves the budget. So the initial one-time budget for the launch project has been increased. In the end, it has been. I mean, the difference is wider. It's a lot. So it's a 20 million DAI. The initial MKR budget has been increased to 5,000 MKR, and the rate at which MKR can be spent per month has been increased to 500 MKR. So yes, I would like to. I'm gonna read your comments. How do you guys? What is your opinion on all of these changes? And some are in favor, some are against. So was writing as well. They are starting in Asia, yes, and of course, just a few hours ago, Ecosystem post about these two events coming up in Singapore. I'm going to share it here. Which this one, and I'm going to share the link. Okay, so yes, as you can see, there are two main updates. The first one, it's the phase one integration test success. It mentions that the beta launch has been completely successfully, and this step involved testing the technical and front-end components of the initial version of the new website. And well, by achieving this milestone, potential challenges and issues were identified and addressed early on. So this test helps stabilize the timeline and roadmap for the launch, and also reducing the likelihood of last minute surprises. And then, of course, they mentioned about the expansion to Asia. So MakerDAO is preparing to have a presence in two significant current events. One, Rune posted about it, which is the Korea Blockchain Week, and the other one is the Token 2049. Both, the Token 49 in Singapore, and both are scheduled for September. And so yeah, the goal is, it says here that it's to establish a stronger community presence in Asia. Not only that, but also introduce DAOs to the Asian market. Um, and well, they also mentioned that there's gonna share limited edition Maker endgame swag. So, what do you guys think about this as well? I mean, is anyone attending this? So I'm going to start reading the questions in here. Jack says, I read that and wonder who these DAO community members and since DAOs has no lunch. That is a good point. Yes. Blue says we propose we propose that everyone who cares gets 1 week to prepare potential questions to the facilitator responsible for the launch project, posting them on the next week's call, and you can then select the questions you find relevant and ask them. Could be done in collaboration with all ABCs. All questions will, of course, not be answered, but if just some of them are, this might help us and get us an idea about the progress and help the ABCs build on its reasoning for supporting the upcoming vote. I think it's a wonderful idea. Do you have anyone in mind, Blue? Um, who is the facilitator responsible for the launch project? Jack's main question is how to make sure someone does not just pay their friends to the money, even if decisions do not need to be voted upon after the fact. Reporting is a must. Yes. Um. Okay. Well, I'm seeing the people writing here. I'm going to share this one. Okay. And well, before going to the next. Blue says, if we do this, we will try to find the right person or group of persons. Kind of nice, yes. I think this is a good idea. Okay. Moving on to the next part, if anyone has anything to say regarding the lunch project, regarding these posts, Hulk is writing. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, yeah, we find hard to make proposals for this scope. That's why we are going to move on to Clocky's proposal. Park says, I support this initiative. IPN says SES in forum asking about the new brand IP protection budget, but had no answer so far. Oh, maybe you can link the comment here. You can share the link. And what I was saying is that, yeah, well, since we didn't find any more proposals relevant, so we decided to move on with this one. And well, shout out to Cloaky and his proposal. I'm going to share the link of this. Just a minute. Oh, thank you for sharing, Paul. I think we should like comment or say something to so more people could be involved in this one. Um, so sharing the link from Clocky's proposals, and well, he has put forward his proposal with modifications and changes, and some parts came from the Sovereign Finance AVC, others from refi, even from growth that is now disbanded. But yes, we encourage for you guys to give us feedback about this, which mainly it's about transparency, accountability, and clarify in the governance advisory council's processes, ensuring that qualified and unbiased individuals or entities contribute to improving the governance scope artifact. The process of selecting, recognizing, and managing advisory council members, as well as specifying the roles and responsibilities within the context of the support scope artifact. And the processes for applying, reviewing, and improving and approving advisory council members, as well as clear guidelines for their roles, competencies, and contributions in the protocol scope. And this is just a very, very brief summary, but he posted the modifications for the different scopes. So I don't know if anyone has a comment on this. I see the Bona Publica is writing. Or about anything in general from the call from today. You could share comments on us also to our ADs about everything that Chris mentioned, and also the ideas that are given in here. I think we should take into account all of them, and also what do you guys think? Bonapublica comments one key component of Article 9 is that in order to ensure a successful launch and to protect potential partners from the complexities of the governance, the launch project will temporarily operate with less transparency than usual. As we all know, the governance is quite complex and would make a new partner's head spin. Oh yeah, no, actually, we do mention this one about the transparency. Yes, yes, it's good to point out. I think I did mention, but yes, it has changed. What do you guys think about this? What do you think, Bona Publica? I see that Bona Publica is writing. Oh yes, thank you, Manorina. So there is the this is going to be uploaded in YouTube. So here's the link. Thank you so much for sharing. And yeah, so Bonapublica says perhaps transparency trust trade-off need to digest more. Yes. I'm gonna try to also put this on the I share with you also Rune's modification, and he points out there. I think that should be also good uh to ask for further details, right? Okay, so Cloaky says, unfortunately, at this point, no alterations can be made for the current cycle. Our best course of action now is to remain optimistic and trust that the proposed changes will be satisfactory for the majority of ABCs and ultimately be approved. We are open to receiving feedback for the next month's MIP and encourage everyone to share their thoughts and suggestions for that. That MIP would also encompass the remaining two scopes, stability and accessibility. Looking forward to that, Cloaky. And just before we finish, just to point out, so I'm gonna share with you our proposal for quarter 2, which also Marianne, who's member for on the ABC, he also shared it. So this is it. Take a look at this. Feedback is very welcome. And well, if no one else have any further comments about today's call, I already shared with you. And you appreciate and value feedback from ADs, Maker governance participants, and all members of the Maker ecosystem. Remember that your input is highly encouraged and welcomed. And next week we're gonna discuss governance scope, week 6. And that will be all for tonight. Well, to date, depending on where you are. If you appreciate our work and share our value, we invite you to consider become an AD of Sovereign Finance AVC. And if you are an MCAR holder, you can delegate to our ADs. That's all. Thank you for your time and attention. See you next Thursday. Bye-bye, everyone.